last show of the year for me. Yeah.
Check those out. Cool, check those out. That's what I'm calling. Do a study to reading some up. Seen a couple of drive around. Anybody waiting around just to see if that one of the person showed up?
Okay, just go, there's the black hole base, obviously, because it's rock. So yeah, if you want to right here. So I'm not gonna have Q&A, you guys, if you want, come in a little bit closer. So there's not the yelling. Not too close now. All right, you guys have probably seen this, I would imagine. So we're gonna go around the room. Everybody's gonna get a chance to ask something. We'll try to answer as best we can, and yes, sir, you're up.
What can you talk about an album that I love? No one talks about KFD.
Oh, yeah?
What can you talk about?
What would you like to know?
Anything.
Who hurt you?
Excuse me?
Who hurt you?
That'll come later.
Yeah, okay.
I want to hear more about that album.
You know, Chris and I had decided to get back together, and we were both kind of mentally and emotionally in the same place. He had just Lita had just divorced him, and I was with a girl that who wanted to get married, and I didn't, and so that fell apart. So honestly, we were just two accidents looking for a place to happen, and we were pissed off at the world, and that album is a result of what we were thinking and feeling at that time. And it's, I've said before, I think it's probably the most artistic piece of work we ever
Yeah,
did.
very angry.
It is, but I mean, artistically, I mean, it's got layer upon layer upon layer. And it, you know, it was caught up in a vacuum of a time where, and it didn't matter who it was, bands from the 70s or the 80s. At that time, it was gonna get buried, you know, because of everything else that was going on. So, you know, but like I said, looking back on it, I think artistically, it's probably the greatest piece of work I ever did. Yes, sir.
Well, this is about a book. You know, there's different books out there that's being done about W.A.S.P and yourself. I'm just wondering if there's no official that's going to be coming out.
Yeah, I've been working on it for about 3 years.
Yeah.
And I thought it would take about 6 months and no chance. I mean, I'm not even halfway finished yet. Because I'm only gonna do this once, and I'm gonna try to make sure I get it right.
Yeah.
And it's, where we are standing right now is right inside the title of the book. It's called Tales from the Square Mile. And you're standing right in the middle of it right now. Because I lived literally across the street in a closet that was 3 feet by 12 feet for a year and a half. And so, you know, you get a record deal and you think somehow miraculously everything is gonna change. And some things do change, but a lot of things stay the same, because I would come back here to work in recording studios, and I would drive right by places where I used to live. I mean, before I moved in over here and was in this closet, I slept on people's floors for the first year and a half I was here. So I would drive by places and see them, and my situation had changed. But I would be working and recording 2 blocks away from someplace I used to live. So you somehow miraculously think, or you think somehow miraculously that everything is gonna change. Some things change and some things do not change. And that went on for 20 years like that. And what happened within this square mile, it goes from Gower, which is right out here, to Hollywood Boulevard, to Santa Monica, to Highland. That is exactly 1 square mile. I spent 20 years in that mile. And what happened in there, this is not a sex and drugs, rock and roll book. It's a survival book. And there's things in it you guys are gonna read. You hear every artist say, you know, I should be dead or in jail. I too fit that description, but for totally different reasons. I was, by the grace of God, delivered from having my brains blown out more than once. So I consider myself very, very fortunate when it comes to that. But this book will go into great detail about what happened here. And it's, trust me, it's gonna be hairy. You read it. A lot of it you're gonna find hard to believe. Every word of it's true. Yes, sir.
And first, thanks a million for doing the reading.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. It's amazing to stand here and see it. I was just wondering, because I listened to a few interviews and you mentioned you were working on a new album. I was just wondering, like what's the, how's the album progressing? Like, what's the mood or what's the inspiration for
Well,
songwriting now?
You know, we had a little hiccup along the way,
Yeah.
you know, specifically related to his question, who did it? So in that time, I had a chance to listen to a lot of, because when you're rehabbing, you know, they work you for a couple hours every day,
Yeah.
and then they want you to go home, and they don't want you to do anything. They want you to rest, heal, you know, and get ready for the next day, because I was doing 5 and 6 days a week. So I had a chance to listen to a lot of the stuff that we had done before. And there's some really good ideas on it.
Yeah.
But it's not finished yet. And it's kind of, think of it like a meal. You take it out of the oven too quick. It would have been great if you would have just left it in a little bit longer. It's the same with records. You know, if you let them go before they're ready, you will kick yourself. Because, you know, you get a big fish on the hook and you let them get away. That's hard to live with that. And I've learned over the years, don't let it go until it's ready. We no longer have the pressure of major record labels telling us, you gotta get it out, you gotta get it out, you gotta get it out. You know, the first few years we were together, we did a record and a tour and a record and a tour. And like, to give you an example, when we came back to do the second record, The Last Command, from pre-production to the time that record was finished was 7 weeks. We were back out on the road. And that was like that, like I said, for 4 years it went on like that. You know, so now we don't have that pressure. You know, I mean, we're gonna let it go when it's ready to go and not until. So, but when will it be done? My wish list is to have it ready for 26. Wish list, but don't hold me to that.
Yeah.
But that's the plan at this point, because we're gonna take this show to the rest of the world next year. So we won't have much chance to work on it then.
Yeah. For sure.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for having me.
Honestly, I don't have a profound question of these people. So, you asked me a question.
How'd you get here?
Oh, I used to be able.
Where?
I used to be able.
Oh, okay.
But how did I get here? I'm originally from Iran.
Oh,
That's where I was introduced to music right after the revolution.
well, you have courage, my friend.
Those are people, in the especially women and girls, that they have courage a lot more than I do. But my introduction to you was back then, and I'm so glad.
What you guys don't know, for people like him, you get caught listening to that music there, they kill you.
Absolutely. And it was so
I'm
difficult.
not making a joke. They will kill you.
Any Western ideas, bring jeans, were illegal. And that's one story from back in the day to this one.
Well, I'm glad you made it out, I really am. You know,
Thank you,
we were,
sir.
I was, some of the guys from Five Finger Death Punch came and saw us when we were in Las Vegas. And they were telling us that they were in Israel, and some kids had come over from Iran. And they said, do you wanna take some pictures? And the kids said, no, 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 which is unusual because most kids would want pictures. They were afraid their government
Social
would
media.
see them back in Iran. So that's what kind of world you're dealing with. Thank God you are here in this place. Yes, ma'am.
When you have to withdraw and just be yourself, be alone with music, what album do you listen to?
I don't. You know, I mean, if you were a car mechanic,
Yeah.
okay, or if you were a plumber and you fix people's toilets all day, would you wanna go home and fix your own toilet?
I have an album that I am a musician, and I have
You
an
didn't
album-
answer my question.
Because I'm a musician and I teach for a living.
Okay.
And I have an album, can't play the music for the life of me, because it's not my genre.
Okay.
So it's completely out of my wheelhouse. And yes, it's like if I were a plumber and I wanted to go work on, I don't know. Cars, yeah, for me.
I don't listen to music at home. I listen in the car.
Okay,
You
what do
know,
you listen to in the car?
If you got Sirius XM, you got a million channels, and I listen to everything, you know, country, bluegrass, blues, rock, you name it, you know, I listen to all, you know, musicians, we only see good and bad, or hear good and bad, and we try not to put labels of genres on things, you know, to us, it's either good or bad. So, you know, when I'm listening to stuff, I'm doing it for pure enjoyment. And I am a spectator, I'm not listening critically unless something catches my ear and then my brain goes into a totally different mode, and then I'm working again. But I try to listen non-critically because when you listen critically, it strips away the beauty of the simplicity. You know, so I just wanna be able to just put my feet up and go, yeah, man, that's great. You know, so I can do both. And when somehow, for some reason, when I'm in the car, I get to do that, you know, and I guess because, and I've had this thought before, and I don't know if it's 100% true, but I think because the studio that I have is at the house, that if I'm listening to music there, it reminds me of work. I'm not 100% sure that that's correct, but I'm suspect that's probably why, you know. But, you know, if I'm flipping through the dials and I hear something, you know, that catches my ear, I'll stop. You know, I mean, I'm not gonna differentiate if something is good. Like I said, like, there's a couple of bluegrass channels that come on Friday nights here in LA, you know, and I love watching those guys. I mean, they're killers, you know, and, you know, I get a kick out of watching them, so, you know, that's my story with music. Yes, sir. Okay, who did what to who?
Well, for KFD,
In what disgusting manner?
it's such a dark album. It's angry. It's like it.
No.
Serious. I'm speaking to the choir, but it's like if I have a brain fog and I'm like I get into a mood and I can't shake out of it, I put KFD on and it wakes me up. It's just that's okay. I'm here. But what happened to you to get that dark? Because I've listened to you since I was in high school, and you know you can do Animal, you can do I Want to Be Somebody, you know, all the way out. But what happened? Because that's not I broke up with my girlfriend and she stole my dog. That's like, you know, she fucked your best friend in front of you and made the dog watch. So what happened?
I'm thinking about the dog. No, I mean, it was in my personal situation, it was a pretty intense relationship we had. And, you know, I'm thinking, I mean, to answer this question, honestly, it would take about an hour. So I'll give you
That would make sense.
I'll give you the abbreviated version as best I can because, you know, when you go through a lot of stuff and you're with somebody, I was with her for 3 years. But I was also in a in a phase of my life where I just wasn't ready to get married. I wanted my cake and eat it too, like most of the men in this room, you know, and we suffer from that. Put a gigantic ego on top of it, you know, and it's like, how dare you tell me you're gonna do this? You're not gonna do anything, when the next thing you know, they're gone. You know, so, because, let me tell you something, and every guy I know, I had a 30-minute conversation with a couple of guys, well-known guys that you would know the other night, and we were all telling each other the same story. Because the rock star thing wears off after about a year. And then they just see you walking around the house scratching your butt. You know, and it's just like, he ain't special. You know, I read something the other day, about a year ago. Priscilla Presley said she left Elvis to go discover the world. You were the most famous man on the planet. I mean, come on, we know he was no choir boy.
Right.
You know, but you gotta go discover the world, you know, and she said 3 years later, she realized the biggest mistake she'd ever made. Too late then,
Yeah.
you know, so, you know, what does it take? I finally did get married, which that is now coming to a close. But, to give you an example, before I got married, I went and I was in a tree for 3 days. I pondered, I questioned myself. I came down to sleep at night, but I stayed in that tree for 3 days, asking myself, are you really ready for this? Because I didn't trust myself. You know, I mean, when you're a fat kid let loose in a candy store,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
temptation is great. And there's not a lot of no's, if you get my drift.
No, I hear you.
And,
Absolutely.
so I had to make sure I was ready. Because I come from a place where if you're gonna say I do, you better mean it. You know, that don't mean I do till I don't feel like doing it no more. Or I see this other woman walking down the street, you know, and I'll have some of that. No, you don't do that. You know, so, you know, I had to go through all that. So that's kind of a microcosm of what got me into the headspace, and it threw me into a tailspin, because I'd never really gone through anything like that before. And it was almost, and I'll be frank, you know, it was almost like, how dare you say no to me?
Right.
You know, and it took me a while to come to grips with, you know, she just felt that the meter was running on her. I understand it now, but I was pretty pissed off at the time, as you could.
I think, yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, I wanted to get your opinion on something, because
Oh, boy.
there's a lot of musicians out there that detest fans, or that are against the idea of fans going to their shows, using their phones, taking photo and video, some cases recording shows to keep the memories and share with the masses. My question to you is, what are your thoughts on that? Do you detest that, or are you all for it? How do you feel about it?
Well, I come from a time where there weren't any, you know. and
Right.
You use your brain to capture the moment. It's just another way of somebody capturing the moment. You know, I really don't have an opinion one way or the other. If that's what somebody wants to do, I'm okay with it. You know, I do think, you know, for artists to say something like that, I understand why they're saying it. But, you know, hey, you got 10 people in a room, you're gonna get 10 different opinions. You know, so, and everybody's right.
Mm.
You know, I don't think there's any wrong. You know, so whatever anybody's happy doing, have at it, man. You know, my blessings.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My son here is starting a band, and he's trying to put everything together. What advice would you give me as a father that I could help him, given your experience in the industry?
Well, how do you feel about it?
I'm for it. I mean, that's why we're here. You know, I'm behind him 100% on whatever he wants to do, as long as he gives it 110%.
How do you feel about it?
Pretty cool. I don't know how to explain it. Just
How old are
it's
you?
something I really want to do. I'm 16, sir.
And how long have you wanted to do this?
I don't. A while ago, probably like when I was probably 10 or 9, maybe even earlier. I just always loved music, and
Actually, when he was 5, he wanted to be the king of pop.
okay, no, before I did. No.
Sorry, I didn't throw that in.
roughly the same color.
No, but yeah, kind of.
Can you, how passionate are you?
So passionate. I mean, I'm not really good at explaining or expressing when I'm like
It's
excited,
okay.
but like
Just talking, yeah.
I mean, I'm in my school's advanced choir program, and I hope that will help me learn how to sing better and will be more confident in performing better. I'm also, we do solo performances where a choir member can choose a song and there's an instrumental track playing of any song they choose and they sing live. And
Okay,
I've done a
do this.
handful of songs.
Na 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 na. Do that.
Na 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 na.
Okay.
No,
So you can
sorry.
sing.
I can sing? You think so?
You can hear the note, you can sing. A lot of people can't hear the notes. So if you can hear the notes, you can sing. It's just a question how bad you want it after that.
Yes, sir. I understand.
So I've used this quote a lot on the tour, but it really does, it makes a lot of sense because Tom Brady said earlier this year when he got elected to the Patriots Hall of Fame, he said successful people are not special. They're just willing to do things that other people aren't.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
Now, when I was your age, I heard a story of a band in Florida, because by that time we had moved back from New York to Florida. And I had heard this story of this band, a local band that started playing their way out, you know, on different gigs. And they get a gig up, you know, up in Georgia, and then they got another one in Kansas, and then another one in Montana. They played all their way, or played their way all the way to Alaska.
Yes, sir.
They get to Alaska, and they got no more gigs.
Oh.
Now they gotta get back home. And I remember them telling us a story about going into a local country store. 3 of them kept the shop owner busy while the other guy was in there trying to steal cans of tuna.
Yum.
And I heard that story and it terrified me.
How old were you at that time?
I was 16 at the time.
Wow.
And it scared me to no end. And I thought, can I do that? Fast forward, in the next couple of years, you're gonna grow emotionally in ways that will be unrecognizable.
Yes, sir.
You're gonna start to become a man. You're gonna think differently. Your desires are gonna change. And if you're someone who cannot live without this, then you've got a chance.
Yes, sir.
But if you think for one moment that you can live without this, you must seek another line of employment. You won't make it.
Yes, sir.
That place across the street, that I was saying I slept in that closet for a year and a half.
Are they for lease?
I'm sorry?
Are they for lease?
Well, I didn't get that, but it was, anyway, it was right over here in Gower. You willing to do something like that?
Yeah, if I got the right people with me, like bandmates, I guess. And I'm willing to find the right people for it. Yeah.
When I left there, I moved into another place here in Hollywood. It was a little stone cottage. It was about 1/3 the size of this room. It was 9 by 22. And I was in there for 3 years with no gas and no electricity.
I could do that.
You ever gone 3 days without electricity?
No, but
So, okay,
I could
but you could relate to that, right? 3
I could
days.
relate with 3 days without something that I would need.
So imagine 3 months, 3 years. What happens in that time? The internal dialogue in your head in that period of time.
My
what
willpower is
happens?
tested.
What's that?
My willpower is tested.
It's not just that, it's that internal dialogue, that conversation that you have with yourself that no one else has. When the doubt starts to set in, is it worth it? Do I want this bad enough? Show business is not looking for people that want to do this, they're looking for people that must do this. There's a quantum leap between want and must, because everybody wants, if you are willing to pay the price, like Tom Brady said, that companies must. And I feel like when I was 18, I just put the shoes on and the shoes did the walking. I was just going along for the ride. I had no choice in the matter. It chose me, I didn't choose it.
Sure.
So those are things in the next probably 2 years you're really gonna come face to face with, because you're not ready yet to make that move. But it's coming very quickly.
Sure.
And
I'm gonna do
that's
it.
when you're gonna find out, because if you can sing, which we now know you can, then that's just a question of developing it, you know? And you ain't gotta be great, you know? I mean, style, you know, the old
Comes
expression,
second.
fashion is fleeting, but style never dies. That's what singing's all about, you know? But you also gotta be passionate about,
What does that mean again?
I'm sorry?
What does that saying mean again? I forgot, sorry.
What is, fashion is fleeting, but style never dies?
Yeah, what does that mean again?
Well, I mean, think about it. Fashion that comes in and out of vogue, you know, what's hot this summer? What's hot this fall? You know, fashion, clothes, you know, those trends come and go. But true style never goes away.
I see what you mean.
So it's timeless, you know, think of it like architecture. You can get, you know, modern architecture, and it may, you know, new flooring is like, you know, the hot thing for, you know, a year, and then it goes away, and then something else takes its place. If you go for architecture that is timeless, it'll always be good, you know, so it's the same with anything you choose to do for a living. But, like I said, I would really ask myself, are you willing to pay the price that goes along with what you're asking, because it's enormous.
Yes, sir, I am.
I'm not trying to scare you.
I'm not scared.
I'm telling you the truth.
Yes, sir.
And if you got the guts, then maybe you got a chance.
I do.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
How did the band happen to come onto the Dungeon Master film? And
Oh.
how long did it take you guys to do your scene?
Only took one night to do the scene. But LA Times had done an article on us. It was like a 2-3 page article. And that was, you know, for an unsigned band, that was a big deal. You know, because in the entertainment section of the LA Times, they used to do it on the Sunday edition, and it was like a 2-page thing on us. It was a big deal. And so the people that were producing the movie, you know, they looked at it and they go, you know, this is perfect for what we want to do. They got a hold of the Troubadour got a hold of us, and, you know, they offered us, you know, a bunch of money, which we needed at the time, you know, and so we took it. And it ended up, I mean, you're gonna see part of it tonight, you know, when we do Tormentor, you know, so it ended up being a good thing for us. The movie stunk, you know, but our part was okay. Yes, sir.
Blackie, Victor, nice to meet you. Sorry about the stupid alarm going off. I just wanted to say, I've been with you since '84, 2015. His first album came out and Animal came out. I had the original green vinyl. I got.
I bet you were popular.
No, what? I wanted to bring it, you can sign it today, and I just found out that my cousin stole all my albums, all my W.A.S.P albums, everything. Everything, that's what I said. I said, you know what, I'm gonna kill him. I still might.
No, I don't wanna hear it.
Doesn't want to be a witness.
I've already signed enough skulls in here.
I just wanted to say, you signed Golgotha, that's a masterpiece, and that's actually my favorite one, so I thank you for the music for all these years. I just turned 56.
I sure appreciate it. Good luck with the cousin.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was too young to get into W.A.S.P. I got it because of my dad. He taught me how to listen to music. I mean, listen to W.A.S.P. And I was wondering, I saw a video that you said that you're working with BC Rich to come out with a guitar. Is that still happening, or?
We're talking about it. I mean, it's a funny market out there right now since COVID. You know, some guitar companies have done really, really well, some haven't. You know, so that conversation will be carried on after Christmas, because we just met with some of the BC Rich guys just a few days ago. And it's something that we very much want to do, And, you know, because the Widow was my guitar originally, you know, so, you know, I hope that things go well with that. I mean, it looks pretty good at this point. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for creating new music that we listen for millions of hours. And I like 3 songs that never made on the albums. It been made on B-sides. It was War Cry, Phantoms in the Mirror, and Skinwalker. I just wanted to know why at that time it didn't go to the album, and if you consider to play them live once.
We have told this story many times in these meet and greets the last year or so. I don't know, it was probably about 15, 16 years ago. We got requests to play some B-sides live. And being artists, you think, okay, that's appealing, you know, that's a nice idea, we'll try that. But we were in the Netherlands. And we went out and we started playing them, and we died the most horrible, ugly death you could ever imagine. Because the audience was like the RCA dog. They were like, you know, why are they doing this? And I remember thinking to myself, I don't know who talked me into this, but I'm never doing it. When you put a show together, you got to take an average of what you think people are going to want to hear. Average person is not going to want to hear that. You know, when we get ready to do a tour, we go in the studio and we have literally a blackboard. We put 50 titles up there and we try to narrow it down. And there's songs I've wanted to do for years that I haven't been able to do. So again, you have to take an average of what you think the majority of the people are going to want to hear. So B-sides, no more, never again. Sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, mine is very simple.
Really?
We'll
find out.
You know, we come from Peru to see you, and we try to come every year around this time to watch a great show. But the thing I like the most really is all the places around the sunset. The rainbow, it's like Christmas, you know, and it's funny because every day we go, every day we eat the same, we drink the same. It's I don't know, it's just like a ritual. But my question was, do you still go to places like that reminds you an early years when maybe not struggling years, but the years that you were enjoying yourself, that the band it's getting bigger and bigger, but you
Well,
still...
we tried to, but, you know, your lives change, you know, and I don't live in this area anymore. I live about an hour and a half north of here. And it's pretty different, it's pretty quiet up there. You know, when we're on the road, it's a very kind of radical, bohemian type existence. And it's, I mean, you go to sleep in one city and you wake up in another. And it's that way every day. And I mean, I'm gonna be in my bed tonight for the first time in 2 months. And I call it hitting the wall at 1,000 miles an hour. Because I'm gonna wake up in the morning and I'm gonna look at the ceiling. First thing I'm gonna say is, where are you? And it's gonna be like that for a week. It takes about a week to get over it. So, you know, it just, your life changes and you try to maintain some of the context that you had earlier on, but, you know, like John Lennon said, life is what happens while you're busy making other plans, you know, so things change and, you know, you don't always get to do everything you want to do, but that's the way it is. Yes, sir.
How did you come up with the doing something different with the Crimson Idol as opposed to just doing another album?
I had that idol, I mean, the idea for the idol since '86. And, you know, it kept kind of percolating in my head and it wasn't ready. And I mean, we made Headless in between that. But in the back of my mind, that idea was there. And so just, you know, I kept working on it a little at a time. You know, it was kind of like a side project when I was doing the other stuff. You know, so I just kept working on it. We're kind of like what I'm doing with this book, you know. And when I thought it was ready, you know, at least to explore, then I said, okay, let's give it a shot. But I had no idea what I was in for because I'd never done one of those before. And there's a huge learning curve. It is not like making a regular record at all, because when you make a regular record, you record the songs, and then you have the luxury of creating what's called the running order. You know, when you do a story-based record, you don't have that luxury. Because, let's say, when you put a running order together on a regular record, you're trying to pace that record. You know, what does the pacing feel like? You know, like when we did our first record, we probably did 20 different versions of the running order of that album to get it just the way we wanted it. But when you do a story, the first thing you have to do is write that story. So you're effectively writing a soundtrack to each one of those, and you have to envision the pacing as you're going. Compared to a regular record, it's 10 times as hard. Because if you get done with it and you listen to the pacing and you don't like it, too bad. If you don't like it, the only way to fix it is to tear the story down, write new songs, and do it again. So to get it right, you have to go slowly. And it's it makes making regular records look like a day at the beach. I mean, that's the reason you see so few bands do it. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for going to be here and for
Thank you.
for the fans being a great day. It looks like you're so busy with so many projects, touring, of course, non-stop. You know, think about new music. What are you doing for fun, if I can ask outside?
I'm doing it right now.
Outside of music.
I don't listen. The last 2 years of my life have been a blur, you know, and I've been talking about this a lot. I'm gonna walk in the door tonight. I don't know what to expect. I'm just gonna put one foot in front of the other, and whatever happens, happens. You know, it's just we learn as life goes by how little control we have of things. You know, you think, oh, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that, and maybe you will and maybe you won't. You know, back to the whole life happens while you're busy making other plans. You know, so like I said, I'm just gonna take it one day at a time, because I was effectively, and I don't mean to be over dramatic, but when I was going through this rehab, it was a lot like being in jail. You know, because they don't want you doing anything other than what they have you do. So you go home at night, the internal dialogue that I was talking about that happens, you know, you get a doctor, and I was fortunate enough to have literally the best surgeons in the world working on me. But when you start going into the rehab for real, and you ask them, am I ever gonna be able to perform again the way I used to? And they look you in the eye and they say, I don't know. Now, what I did not know at the time, that means probably not. Because they don't want to prejudice patients to what the final outcome is gonna be. They told me about a week before this tour started, they said, you know what, you made some unbelievable progress. You know, you worked really, really hard, and we're glad you did, because most people do not recover from what you went through. Most people will be crippled the rest of their lives. So I consider myself, thank you, Lord, very, very fortunate, you know, to have made it through all of that. You know, so that's what I did for the last year and a half. So that was my free time. Yes, sir.
Yes, where did you get the idea for your mic stand, and why did you call it
Elvis.
Elvis? Yeah, why did you call it Elvis?
Well, the original Elvis was one of a kind. He's one of a kind. The world's only $10,000 microphone stand. The Disney guys built it for us.
Oh,
All
wow.
cheap, you know. So, but as you guys can see, that thing is not a toy. You know, that thing will hurt you quick if you're not prepared to be on it. You know, because he bites. We've often joked that we should do late night infomercials for it to sell it as an exercise thing. Because if you get up on top of that thing, you start riding it, it will work the crap out of you. I mean, you'll be sweating when you get off of it, you know, because, like I said, it literally is, you could think of it as a piece of isometric equipment to work on at home. But the idea, believe it or not, came from a doorstop. I was in a hotel room. And, you know, the spring door stops that keep them caving in the ground, you know, bing, 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 like that. And being an artist, when it goes through your filter and comes out the other side, we see things different. I mean, how Picasso get a foot coming out of a woman's head, you know, I don't know. Artists see things differently. The same way with the saw blades were the same way. You know, I saw a saw blade in a window, you know, and I just started laughing, you know, because that's just how our brains work, you know. So it was a very similar thing, but that thing took a lot of engineering to get it to be where it is now. Because to get it right, to get the weight ratios right, I mean, what you guys won't see tonight, there's 800 pounds of weight in the bottom of that thing. Because when I get on it, to be able to keep me from pulling it over, there has to be literally a half a ton of weight in the bottom of that thing, because the torque, when you get on it, all that stuff had to be calculated. And nobody had ever done it before. You know, every time you come up with an idea that nobody's ever done, there's really nobody to go to ask how you did it, because nobody's done it. You know, so, but that's what makes it original. Contest winner.
What's the best song that you, in your opinion, what's the best song that you've ever made, and why is it the best?
It's impossible. You tell me. I can't answer that. You know, I mean, it's, you know, do you guys have kids?
No,
Oh,
we're
I feel
siblings.
brother and sister.
Oh.
Might be a good thing.
And you're from Utah, right? No, I'm not gonna do it. Well, I'm cruel, but I'm not. No, I just, you know, everyone there's a reason you write it, you know, and they all have individual meanings. And so to try to pick one out, I can't do that. You know, I look at them as albums become chapters in a book, and the book is still being written, you know, so I'll leave that to somebody else to make that decision. Yes, sir?
I was just gonna ask if there are any like newer artists that you think have had any kind of like profound impact on you or have shaped your music in any way.
Like I said, I don't listen to stuff like that, you know, I try to get a wide variety of things, and there's no real one thing that, you know, I get locked into. You know, it'd be like eating meatloaf every day. You know, I mean, you could do it, I mean, I like meatloaf, but I don't wanna eat it every day, you know? So, you know, I try to get a wide variety, and as a musician, it's good to do that, because it keeps your perspectives really fresh. Lori?
Yes, not a question, but I just want to tell you that you and your music have made it possible for me to reclaim my life. Some years back, my parents were getting old and frail. I quit my job, I moved in with them so that they didn't have to move into assisted living.
Welcome to the club.
So my mom always got a kick out of you. You know, she worried about you in the saw blades. It was like, he's gonna hurt himself. It's like, but Evermore was her favorite song. And because you were singing, Give Me Wings and Will I Rise On, that was Blackie's Angel song. And
You know, that song originally was supposed to be on Endless. Yeah. And I regret to this day not putting it in there. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No, I had Evermore as my license plate in memory. And my dad was a guitarist from the time he was 10 or 12 up until he was 95. And he, when he was in some senior bands back in his 80s and 90s, he lost his class guitar pick, and he said, "Do you have any?" He's like, "Yeah, I do." So
We used mine.
Yes, he did, from the Electric Circus, the larger ones, and he loved it. Yeah, he was a real stinker too, because he would drop it on the floor and have someone else pick it up, and he said, "Who's Blackie Lawless?" It's like, Google him, and it's like, how do you know this big hairy guy with the saw blades? And it's like, oh, I got contact. So, but.
Speaking of, I don't mean to interrupt you. I was talking to my publicist last night. He came to the show in San Francisco, He said people are accusing me of wearing a wig now.
What?
No.
If it
Not a
is, it's
chance.
hooked on real good. Aggravated the crap out of me. I'm sorry, go ahead. The crap people think up in their little cubicles, you know? Nothing else to talk about, I guess. Well, hey, you know, if he got mileage out of that pick, more power to him.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
glad
I
he did.
still have his guitar, which is a 1938 Epiphone Broadway.
Oh, boy.
And that pick is still stuck in the strings.
Wow.
So, but.
You hang on to that. That's worth a lot of money.
Well, it's, the money is one thing, but it's.
Oh, I get it.
It's
I
dad,
totally get
you
it.
know?
Oh, yeah.
So, but, well, eventually, you know, Mom, she declined first. And the hardest thing that I ever had to do was live with my father's grief. He didn't even last a year because they had been married almost 70 years.
You see it all the time.
Yeah, and.
Judah just lost his father 2 years ago, and his mom about a week after that. The guy that was our accountant, he lost his parents within 3 days of each other. You see this, who was it? There was somebody I read, not Jim Carrey, some other guy you would know. He just had the same situation, lost his parents within 3 days. If they're together a long time, you've heard the expression of people dying of a broken heart. I believe that's absolutely true. You know, because, you know, we all wake up one day, somehow we went from being the kid to the parent.
Yeah.
You know, Bible says once a man, twice a child. That means you start out as a child, you end as a child. You know, and in the interim, us kids somehow miraculously wake up one day and we got elected to be the caretakers.
Yep.
And it happens to all of us, but it's part of the cycle, and if you love them, they'll take care of them, you know, so that's the way it is. But consider yourself fortunate to have them.
Oh, for that length of time, absolutely, and I had to handle all the paperwork and whatnot myself, because I didn't have anybody else.
Dude, I want to talk to him about it.
I just went through that with my dad a couple months ago. Blackie, during the formative years, the beginning, Sister in London, what was it like working with Nikki Sixx, Lizzie Gray, Randy Piper, and what was your favorite record, W.A.S.P record that tore on?
Well, you know, when we all first started, you know, you got stars in your eyes but looking back on it, we were people that were incredibly driven, you know, by comparison to the ones that did not have success. You know, we were guys that when we talked about what we were doing or what we wanted to do, we had sparks flying off our ass. I mean, and that's what you gotta be that driven, you know, so to me, that's the takeaway that I see from us at a very early age. The very first rehearsal I ever sat in with Kiss, they were just getting started, and I knew Ace, so I go over one day, and it was just him and Gene and Paul were working on songs, and then after they got done, I hadn't met Paul yet, and so Ace introduces me to him, and I will never forget Paul saying to me, you know, he's talking about what he thinks the band can achieve, and he goes, you know what, I'll talk about Black Sabbath, I'll talk about Led Zeppelin, I'll talk about any band you want to talk about because we're going to be bigger than all of them. And most of the time when somebody says something like that, they're bragging. He was not bragging. He was convinced. The look that was in his eye when he was talking, he made me a believer. You know, and nobody knew who they were yet. And I never forgot that. And that's that kind of conviction you have to have. And it's not bravado. It's self-belief, it's passion, it's all that stuff. I'm going to do this come hell or high water. You know, so, you know, and as far as, you know, us going on and to make the records and stuff, those are just little snapshots of where you are in your life at the time. You know, and they should be that. They should be a reflection of who you are and where you are at that moment. You know, and if they're not, then they're not real. You know, and guys do that when they make pop records, and that's okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But that's not artistry, you know, that's something different. And there is a place for it, and it's cool, but it's not what artists should really be doing. Yes, ma'am.
I just want you to know that I love your music.
Thank you.
And
Thank
I
you.
thank you.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that tremendously, I really do. Is that it? Anything else?
Not get a question, you guys?
All right, you guys want me to do this thing out here? I gotta go get ready.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.